Okay, I'm going to call State of Wisconsin versus Taylor Schabusiness. Case number is 22 CF 363. The defendant is here with Mr. Jolly. Mr. Saunders is appearing for the state. Case is scheduled today for a preliminary hearing. Are the parties prepared to proceed?
The state is.
Okay.
The state is.
All right. State calls first witness.
The state calls Detective David Groff.
I do.
You state your name and spell your last name for the record, please.
David Gruff, Graf.
Can you state for the record how you're currently employed?
I'm a detective with the Green Bay Police Department.
And how long have you been employed with the Green Bay Police Department?
I have 29 years of law enforcement experience, 25 with the Green Bay Police Department, 15 years as a detective.
I'd like to direct your attention to February of this year. Were you involved in an investigation of a homicide around that time?
Yes.
And if you can, what was the nature of that investigation?
I was notified to respond to in the middle of the night to investigate a homicide. When the initial reports were that the mother of the victim had returned or had gone down into the basement of her residence and discovered the head of her son in the bucket. And so then she called the police. Initial officers responded, secured the scene, and then detectives were called in.
The suspect that you referred to just now, who is that individual identified as?
Taylor Schabusiness.
Methamphetamine, also known as crystal meth or simply meth, is a powerful, illegally produced stimulant that attacks the central nervous system. Meth usage can quickly lead to nervousness, compulsive behavior, irritability, anger, hallucinations, and depression. Addicts can experience everything from sleeplessness, nausea, and vomiting to more serious symptoms such as extreme paranoia and seizures. With high dosages or consistent use, users can develop psychosis and engage in violent behavior. Despite state laws enacted to restrict access to substances used to produce methamphetamine, in recent years, Wisconsin has seen a surge in meth use, which has spread across the state. In 2018, the Wisconsin State Crime Lab reported an increase of more than 450% in meth cases since 2008, with Wisconsin residents between the ages of 18 and 25 most likely to demonstrate illegal drug abuse or dependence. According to the latest national survey on drug use and health, less than 10% of the 7.5 million Americans with illegal drug addictions got treatment in 2017. Rising meth usage and low treatment rates endanger communities on many levels. Families are torn apart, futures are often destroyed, and there may be an increase in violent criminal behavior associated with substance-induced psychosis. One case in particular dominated the headlines in Green Bay, Wisconsin recently. Shad Rock-Therian was born on September 7, 1997, in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He was raised in the village of Ashwaubenon, a suburb of Green Bay known mostly for being the home of Lambeau Field. Shad was one of 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. He was a Bayport High School student from 2010 to 2015, although he is not listed as a graduate there. There is no record of post-secondary education or history of arrests. He moved on to work at his father's and grandfather's family businesses after high school. He was an avid camper and a talented artist who loved music and enjoyed wood carving. Shad was described by family members as kind, compassionate, and good-natured. In terms of his romantic relationships, not much is known other than he was single at the time of the incident, and despite what appeared to be a peacefully mundane existence, he managed to become involved with a married woman who frequently engaged in high risk antisocial behaviors, including illicit drug use. That woman was Taylor Schabusiness.
Hi, I'm Taylor Schabusiness, and I'm a very hardworking, dedicated individual that's broke and really needs money to help get that swole on. So if you could please donate to this GoFundMe page, be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Taylor Schabusiness is a 24-year-old married woman who was born on November 23, 1997, in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Her birth name was Taylor Denise Coronado, but in 2018, for unknown reasons, she petitioned the court for a legal name change to Schabusiness. She was raised and formally educated in Wisconsin, but public records show she's also lived in Suamico, Wisconsin, as well as several cities in Texas before ultimately returning to Green Bay. According to the ABC News affiliate WBAY-TV, Schabusiness told a forensic psychologist about her history of polysubstance abuse as well as mental health struggles. This includes psychiatric hospitalization when she was in 7th grade after a suicide attempt, and prior diagnoses of bipolar disorder, attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. As a youth, she attended Bayport High School, but there is no record of her having completed her education there, or of any post-secondary education. Very little is known about her employment history following high school. By any measure, she has had what most would consider a checkered past. As a young adult, Schabusiness was dealing with an assortment of financial and legal difficulties, and by the time she turned 23 years old, she had a rap sheet that included multiple felonies. With that said, she also appears to have been the beneficiary of considerable leniency. Let's examine the public record. On December 6, 2019, Schabusiness was cited for operating a vehicle with a suspended driver license. She pleaded no contest and paid a fine of $200.50. In June of 2020, she was arrested and charged with battery or threat to a law enforcement officer and misdemeanor resisting or obstructing an officer. She pleaded no contest to the battery charge and was found guilty. The resisting charge was dismissed. She was sentenced to 60 days in jail with 3 years of probation. A wage garnishment was executed as well to recover court-ordered penalties. In August 2020, she was charged with failure to appear in court and resisting an officer. Fortunately for her, both charges were dismissed as part of the June case. Just weeks later, on August 31, 2020, she was caught with drug paraphernalia and charged with misdemeanor possession, felony failure to appear, felony fleeing from an officer in a vehicle, and misdemeanor resisting an officer. Once again, the failure to appear charges were dismissed, as were the drug charges. Despite the apparent parole violations, she received a meager 3 months in jail with 2 years probation on the resisting and fleeing charges. She was deemed a flight risk and required to wear a GPS ankle bracelet monitor. On January 7, 2021, she was sued by a federal credit union and lost. On February 9, 2021, she was sued by the city of Green Bay and lost. A judgment in favor of the city of Green Bay was entered in the amount of $4,998. On September 28, 2021, a bench warrant was authorized after she failed to appear for a hearing for the 3rd time. On October 26, 2021, she was returned to court on the bench warrant. On January 3, 2022, a sentencing hearing took place. At this time, she was convicted on a charge of felony battery or threat to a judge, prosecutor, or law enforcement officer from the June 2020 case. She was sentenced to 3 months in jail with work release privileges, according to online court records. Following the January 3rd hearing, Schabusiness returned to the apartment she shared in Green Bay and attempted to put her life back together. However, she struggled to gain traction as she had dug a large hole for herself in terms of legal issues. The past 18 months had seen Schabusiness frequently in and out of courts, under parole supervision, and dealing with the many consequences that come with a criminal record. She struggled financially due to limited income, wage garnishment, and poor decision making. She was separated from her incarcerated husband. There was a new warrant out for her arrest as she had taken her monitoring bracelet off. Additionally, she reportedly gave birth to a child sometime in 2021 but did not have custody of the child. With all these stressors in her life, and perhaps seeking an escape from her many problems, she reached out to Shad Therian, with whom she had an ongoing sexual relationship, and they arranged to get together on Monday, February 21st, for a night of unbridled debauchery. On Wednesday, February 23rd at about 3:25 a.m., police were contacted by a person who reported finding her son's severed head and male organ in a bucket. They rushed to the 800 block of Stony Brook Lane in Green Bay. The first officers arrived, confirmed the discovery, secured the scene, and notified detectives. Detective David Graff arrived and observed the man's head and member in a black bucket covered with a towel. He noticed what appeared to be dried blood on a nearby mattress. They recorded their findings and notified the forensics team. Detective Graff was then informed by Shad's mother that Schabusiness was the last person seen with Shad. Schabusiness was located by patrol officers at the Eastman Avenue apartment she shared and brought to a local police station. An officer told Graff that Schabusiness had a large amount of what he believed to be blood on her clothing. Graff observed a cut on her left thumb. Also observed were scratches on her arms and hand that, according to her, were self-inflicted, in addition to what appeared to be blood on both hands. Graff Mirandized her and engaged in conversation. He told her that a few hours ago, officers were sent to a residence in Green Bay in which a human head was found. She responded, "That's pretty effed up." Detective Graff asked her if she knew Shad Therian, and she said she did. He confirmed the van parked at the crime scene belonged to her roommate. Detective Graff asked where the rest of the body was, and Schabusiness said it was still in the basement. He asked her to tell him what happened, and she replied, "That is a good question," claiming she had blacked out during that time. Asked if she and Shad had made contact with anyone when they got back to the house, Schabusiness stated, "Damn, the head. I can't believe I left the head, though." Detective Graff asked, "Why don't you tell me what happened?" According to the criminal complaint, Schabusiness stated that on Monday, February 21st, 2022, at 9:30 p.m., she and a friend drove to Shad's residence and picked up Shad in her roommate's minivan. She mentioned the pair had been friends and were involved in an ongoing sexual relationship. They then went to her Eastman Avenue apartment where all three smoked marijuana, but Schabusiness and Shad smoked some methamphetamine as well. When the friend left, Schabusiness then shot up herself and Shad with an antidepressant. Soon after, they left the apartment and drove to Shad's residence in their roommate's van. They were led into the house by the mother's boyfriend and went directly to the basement, where they spent most of Tuesday. Shad's mother and boyfriend were out of the house during the day Tuesday, but his mother did notice there was a minivan parked on the road in front of the house during that time. She was not sure who it belonged to. Schabusiness stated she and Shad were in the basement, and they were getting to intercourse, when he produced 2 chains, one for him and one for her. She described them as chain link and silver. She would later refer to them as dog choke collars. She mentioned that strangulation was something they had done before. She began to strangle Shad as part of a sex act and then stated she just went crazy. She said at one point while she was choking him, she could feel that his heart was still beating, so she choked him harder. She stated she was waiting for him to die as she was watching his face. However, the victim would not die and just kept rebuilding into muscle. She said she kept on choking him as, quote, I was already this far, and yeah, I liked it, end quote. She claimed that she continued to choke him even though he coughed up blood as she wanted to see what would happen. She then asked detectives if they knew what it was like to, quote, love something so much that you kill it, end quote. After Shad's death, she said that she played with his body for a couple of hours and performed various acts, including oral copulation, before severing the body. Asked whether Shad fought back when being choked, she stated he did. She stated the police were going to have fun trying to find all the organs as she dismembered the body. She said all the body parts should be in the basement, but there could be a foot or a leg in the minivan. Asked what she did with the head, she said she put it in a black bucket with a blanket covering it. Asked how she dismembered the body, she said she used knives obtained from the kitchen and that a bread knife worked best because of the serrated blade. She stated the plan was to bring all body parts with her, but she got lazy and forgot the head. She stated that she did not start out with the intent to kill him, but as she choked him, she realized that she enjoyed it, and so she just continued to do it. Asked if she thought it was the right thing to do, she responded, I did it anyway. Schabusiness was arrested and charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault. Bond was set at $2 million cash. Taylor Schabusiness is currently being held at the Brown County Jail pending trial. On April 13, 2022, a competency hearing took place to determine Schabusiness's fitness to stand trial. 5 weeks later, she was deemed mentally fit to stand trial. As of the date of this upload, there is a trial date on the docket for October 24, 2022.